My name is Bruce Fenton, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about a personal theory of mine on the recent strange visitor to our solar system known as Oumuamua. Now, that name comes from Hawaiian and it means scout, usually a military scout, one who scouts out the enemy, which is a strange choice, for this object. But moving beyond that, there's far more that's strange about Oumuamua. Just about everything. But unlike many of the academics who are coming out now and saying that it's, perhaps some kind of probe from an advanced extraterrestrial, species, or what they call a solar sail that is being pushed, through the cosmos by energy hitting it, I don't really agree with that. I actually feel that what we see here is something far more profound, something far stranger, and I'm going to call it a directed panspermia machine. Now, what the hell is that? Directed panspermia is a theory that life on Earth began by particles, bacteria, viral spores, being sent to our planet at a time when it was, ready to receive them and for them to flourish. Now, in fact, in the last few years, it's become clear that life on Earth seems to have started impossibly early. Now, the latest theory is it's around about 100,000 years after the planet formed, right? And even if you go back a few years ago, when it was believed to be around 500,000 years or so, they thought that was impossibly early and that was very unlikely. But a number of finds in the geological record have pushed this date back, and they're now to the point where they think that 100,000 years after the planet formed, life began. Now, this is pretty crazy when you think about just how complex DNA is and the likelihood that it can spontaneously form in such a short period as 100,000 years. Leading academics, including Francis Crick, who was one of the co-discoverers of the double helix, form of the DNA molecule, actually came to the conclusion that the most likely way that this molecule could have formed is by an advanced extraterrestrial species, engineering it and sending it to our planet, right? So consider that these are, this is a Nobel Prize winning scientist, right? And looking at Oumuamua, I've got some suspicions here, because you have this long, seemingly cigar-shaped object, right, which is about 400 meters long, about 40 meters wide. It's described as being featureless, so it could be very smooth. It's made of dense material, which they suspect is, mostly metal, with a coating of what seems to be some kind of organic material, perhaps cosmic dust, but some kind of organic material that coats the surface. It has strange reflective properties. It's 10 times more reflective to light than a normal asteroid or comet, right? And then on top of that, you have the fact that it's turning end over end, which is unexpected that it'd be doing that, as well as this, recently detected outburst of additional speed where it sort of sped up as it left the solar system, despite the fact that, it was considered to be ice-free largely and, without any, water on it, anything that's really outgas and give it this acceleration, which we see sometimes in comets, but we wouldn't see in asteroids. And this doesn't seem to be either a comet or asteroid, and so there's been a mystery about how it could suddenly accelerate away. Now, for part of my argument, I'd say there's a couple more anomalies that we need to look at. Now, one of these is the actual direction it took. It came in from above the solar system, moved in, came into sort of near Mercury and the Sun, curved around, and then moved underneath the orbital path of Earth before rising through the plane around about roughly halfway between the orbit of Earth and Mars. Now that's interesting because Earth and Mars just happen to be the two planets that we know have, have oxygen available, have also water available. In Mars's case, most of this is locked in the soil, but we know that there's liquid water. And even now, there's some suspicions that there may be microbial life still on the planet, if not some kind of higher life. Earth, we know without doubt, can support life. It has a multitude of organisms. Isn't it funny then that this object just happens to, pass through the plane of our solar system between these two planets? So if you were an advanced species looking to send something that's going to sort of in some way, affect or study, Earth or Mars, that's quite incredible when you think about it. So it could be projected that it would pass through that, that area and then leave the solar system having completed its task. Now, what is that task? Because I don't think it is a probe. I think that the reason why we see it spinning in this way is because it's designed to release a cloud of sort of spores or seeds, which will be released from both ends, so it spins out, forming a diffuse cloud. Now, what would these seeds look like? We have a good example, because a few years ago there was a project looking at what's up in the upper atmosphere in terms of viral spores and whatnot. And they actually found a small metallic sphere. And this was a British study led by, prominent astrobiologists. And they found a small metal sphere made of titanium and vanadium, I think it was, which is an incredibly tough alloy. And leaking from this sphere was a kind of organic goo. And around the outside was what they seemed to be a fungal mat of some sort. Now, they came to the conclusion that this was quite likely a seed, an artificial seed carrying DNA from outer space to Earth, right? So imagine one of these machines spinning its way through our solar system, activates as it passes through the area between Earth and Mars, releasing this cloud of spores, and then once done, it accelerates away. So what happens next? Well, 12 months later, or within, from October, we'd have passed through that area again. It's quite possible that some of these, these artificial seeds would have made contact with the upper atmosphere, and they're even now raining down. So we may have some sort of viral, spores, in our atmosphere at the moment that would eventually find their way into organic life, and by a process known as horizontal gene transfer, the code in that material can jump across into any organisms infected by the virus, usually a retrovirus in the case of horizontal gene transfer. And just a few months ago, there was a study involving 33 academics, which came to the conclusion that the Cambrian explosion, in which vast numbers of new organisms seem to appear in the fossil record quite suddenly, they came to the conclusion this was caused by Panspermia, and that viral spores rained down from above and modified the existing organisms and brought about a sudden leap in evolution, producing all manner of new species. If that's the case, if this is a follow-up, and that we are going to be in some way mutated by this process, we could be seeing that happening right now. We don't know. There may be already these viral spores entering organisms, entering human beings, and beginning to deliver the information. Or it may be that this will be, a year from now. We don't know how fast these spores, if they were there, how fast they were moving, whether or not they are calculated to hit a specific, specific year, or, we don't know. But certainly the evidence is there that this is a very strange object, and I think it's far stranger than a probe. I think if you really look at the evidence, that it's perfectly designed to spit out these spores, and that we may well be about to see something, incredible happen, a leap forward in evolution on this planet. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this, click like, subscribe, and of course, share it around. Thanks very much. Thank you.